Under the shimmering Christmas lights, a gay teen whispered to Santa, "I miss him so much. I wish this wasn't my daddy's last Christmas." He had no idea that a lonely man standing behind him heard every word, and what he did next would change his life forever. Snow drifted through the December air like tiny shards of glass, catching in the golden glow of Rockefeller Center's Christmas lights. Families huddled together. Children squealed as they pointed at the towering tree, and the sharp smell of roasted chestnuts mingled with the winter wind. But for Vincent Romano, none of it meant anything. The world could have been muted under a layer of ice, and he wouldn't have noticed. He walked through the crowd in his black wool coat, tailored, expensive, and utterly useless against the cold sinking from within. Every laugh, every carol, even the ringing bells from the Salvation Army volunteers blended into a hollow blur. His heart hadn't felt warm in 5 years. Not since the night he lost the only person who ever made Christmas feel real. He remembered holding his partner's hand, feeling it go slack, and how the world had gone silent. Tonight, the memory clung to him like frost, tightening his chest the way it did every December. He would have walked right past Santa's little stage if not for the voice. Quiet, fragile, trembling like a dying flame. "It's Daddy's last Christmas. Please, Santa, before he doesn't wake up." The words sliced through the quiet numbness like a jagged blade. Vincent stopped so abruptly that a couple behind him muttered in annoyance as they swerved around. He barely noticed. His breath caught in his throat, a sharp jolt of pain shooting across his ribs, as if someone had reached inside and squeezed. A plume of white fog escaped his lips as he exhaled shakily. He turned and saw him, a young man no older than 17, standing before Santa in a thin, faded gray coat with frayed cuffs. Other teens laughed with friends, bundled in puffy designer jackets. This boy looked like he had stepped out of another world entirely. His dark hair was messy, cheeks flushed not from excitement, but from cold. His eyes shimmered with tears he fought hard not to release. He thanked Santa in a small voice and stepped down from the platform, wobbling like his legs were too tired to hold him. Vincent saw his knees buckle before his body fully gave out. Instinct overtook him. His feet moved before his mind could catch up, pushing through the crowd until he knelt beside him on the icy pavement. "Hey, easy." His voice came out rough, scraped from disuse. The boy's eyes flickered open, unfocused, but still holding that strange mix of fear and determination. He tried to stand but collapsed again. Vincent steadied his shoulders gently. "Are you hurt?" He blinked slowly, then whispered, his voice hardly more than a breath. "Please don't take me away. I have to get home to my dad." The words hit him harder than the winter wind ever could. A kid freezing, collapsing on a Christmas night, and his only fear was being taken away from his sick father. Something cracked open inside Vincent, something he thought had died years ago. He didn't know it yet, but this was the moment Christmas found him again. Vincent didn't remember standing up. One moment he was kneeling on the cold pavement, and the next he was lifting the teen gently into his arms. He weighed almost nothing. His coat was thin, stiff with dried snow, and when his cheek brushed Vincent's collar, he felt how cold his skin was. "Let's get you warm," he murmured. He shivered faintly, his breath short and uneven. Vincent tightened his grip and scanned the area for the nearest coffee cart glowing under a yellow lamp. At the cart, he bought the largest cup of hot cocoa they had. He set the boy gently on a bench nearby before handing him the cup. He reached for it with trembling fingers, his hands shaking violently. His lips were tinged blue. "Thank you." His voice came out rasped and small. The way he said it, soft and polite, hit Vincent in a place he had long boarded shut. "Drink slowly," he said. He moved closer, steadying the boy's hands with his own. For a moment he looked up at him. His eyes were the color of a winter sky, gray with hints of desperation. "What's your name?" Vincent asked. "Alex," he whispered. "Alex Bennett." Before he could say more, Vincent's phone began vibrating, sharp and insistent. He ignored it at first, but the buzzing continued. Messages from his capos, alerts he was supposed to be handling. He pulled the phone out and glanced at the screen. A major deal was flashing across the top. He stared at it, his grip tightening. Then he looked at Alex, at his thin wrists and trembling lips. He pressed the power button on the phone until the screen went black. The silence that followed felt like breathing for the first time. "When was the last time you ate?" Vincent asked. Alex shrugged without looking up. "Yesterday, I think. Sometimes I skip so my dad can have more. Do you have heat at home?" He shook his head. "The heater broke. Dad's really sick. He sleeps a lot." He tried to stand, his legs buckling. On instinct, he reached out, not for Vincent's hand, but for the hem of his long coat. Just a soft tug, a tiny pull. As they walked north, the city changed block by block, the festive lights growing thinner. Alex walked in silence, holding on to his coat the entire time. "How far is it?" he asked gently. "Just a little more," he said. "Dad can't climb the stairs anymore, so I go everywhere for us." His throat tightened. He guided him past a half-lit bar, a shuttered laundromat, and finally to a narrow brick building with a rusted fire escape. As they approached, a tall man stepped out, lean and sneering. His eyes dragged over Alex with a cold amusement that made Vincent instantly bristle. "Well, look who finally crawled back," the man drawled. Alex froze behind Vincent, gripping his coat with both hands now. "Marco," he whispered. Marco smirked at Vincent, sizing him up. "Nice suit. You his new charity project or something?" Vincent stepped forward instinctively, shielding Alex. "I'm walking him home." "Cute," Marco snorted. "Tell your old man rent's overdue. If I don't see money by Friday, both of you are out." Alex flinched. Vincent felt something hot surge through him. A clean, sharp rage. He didn't raise his voice. He just said very quietly, "Move." Marco's smirk faltered. "Whatever," he muttered, stepping aside and disappearing into the alley. Vincent exhaled slowly, turning to Alex. "Let's get you inside." The door creaked open, and the moment Vincent stepped inside, the cold punched him. Sharp, stagnant, the kind that seeped into bones. Then came the smell, a damp mixture of mildew and old carpet, layered faintly with the bitter sting of antiseptic. A faint, uneven hum vibrated through the space. Vincent saw it, the oxygen machine in the corner, rattling with a sickly rhythm. Its thin tube snaked across the floor toward a small bedroom. Alex took off his shoes, the soles worn through almost entirely. He motioned for Vincent to follow him. "Dad, is that you?" A faint voice whispered from the bedroom. It was thin and brittle. "Dad, I'm here." Alex hurried forward. "I brought someone." Vincent followed him into the small room. David Bennett lay on a narrow mattress, his face ghostly pale, cheeks hollowed. His hair clung to his forehead in limp strands. The blanket covering him was thin and patchy. When he saw Vincent, his eyes widened a fraction. "Hi," he whispered, his voice a dry rasp. He tried to push himself up on trembling elbows. "Dad, don't." Alex rushed to support him. "It's okay. He's here to help." But David shook his head weakly, determined to show some semblance of strength. His arms buckled, and he began to collapse. Vincent lunged forward, catching him just before he hit the bed. "It's all right," he said softly. "Don't push yourself." David blinked slowly. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Everything's a bit foggy." Alex sat beside him, brushing a hand along his father's forehead. David shifted his gaze to Vincent, studying him. The gratitude in his eyes was unmistakable, and so was the shame. Vincent took a moment to observe everything. A single lamp flickered weakly. Piles of medical bills sat on an overturned laundry basket. The window pane rattled with every gust of wind. A small drawing taped to the wall caught his eye. A crude sketch of Alex holding a Christmas star, his father smiling beside him. Alex tugged gently on Vincent's sleeve. "Can you help him?" he asked, his voice tiny, fragile. His deep gray eyes held a mixture of desperation and trust. Trust Vincent hadn't earned yet. Vincent nodded. I'll do everything I can. David's eyes fluttered open again. His hand reached out weakly, trembling as it touched Vincent's coat sleeve. Please, he whispered, his voice barely more than air. Don't let them take Alex. Vincent frowned slightly. Who's trying to take him? David hesitated. His ex-boyfriend, Julian. He left years ago. But lately, I think he knows I'm dying. He doesn't want Alex. He just wants to control him. The room fell silent. Alex froze, his small hand tightening around his father's fingers. Protect him. The words echoed in Vincent's mind. He realized that stepping into this apartment wasn't just entering their world. It was stepping into a responsibility he never expected. But as he looked at Alex clutching his father's hand like a lifeline, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He couldn't walk away. The room felt frozen, with no sound but the uneven hiss of the failing oxygen machine. Vincent shrugged off his coat, laid it across the foot of David's bed, and moved with a steady purpose that surprised even him. He pulled out his phone and dialed his private doctor. Dr. Alistair, it's Vincent Romano. I need a house call immediately. Yes, tonight. Bring whatever equipment you can. He's critical. His tone brooked no argument. He ended the call and turned toward the cold, dark kitchen. The refrigerator held only half a bottle of expired juice and a single bruised apple. Vincent exhaled sharply through his nose, anger simmering. He found a small pot, rinsed it, and filled it with water from the sputtering faucet. He warmed the water, poured it into a chipped mug, and carried it to the bedroom. Let's try to get some fluids in him, he said quietly. He lifted David gently, supporting his shoulders. David managed a small sip. It was barely anything, but it was something. Alex watched silently. Vincent took off his cashmere scarf and wrapped it carefully around Alex's small neck. It's warm, he said softly. It's yours now, Vincent replied. His eyes widened in a mix of surprise and gratitude that made Vincent's chest tighten. He turned to the window where icy wind was slipping in. With a roll of duct tape from under the sink and a piece of cardboard, he patched the draft. The apartment door rattled once, and Alex jumped. Vincent put a hand on his shoulder. It's all right. No one can come in. Before he could say anything else, his phone rang. His second in command. Vincent, where the hell are you? Luca's voice was frantic. The O'Malley deal is going south. They're getting impatient. I'm busy. Vincent cut in. Busy? Vincent, this could cost us everything. He looked at David's frail body and Alex's terrified eyes. With a calm he didn't know he possessed, he said, Then it will cost me everything. I'm where I need to be. He hung up. Dr. Alistair arrived, his breath fogging in the stairwell. He examined David, adjusted his oxygen flow, started in 4, and made notes with tight brows that told Vincent everything he needed to know. David was running out of time. After the doctor left with a promise to return in the morning, Vincent cleaned the apartment. Just after the doctor left, David's breathing grew thin and erratic. Vincent didn't hesitate. He called 911, and paramedics arrived in a blur of red lights. Alex clung to his coat the entire ride, his small sobs shaking against Vincent's side. At the hospital, they stayed until David was stable. Machines hissed and clicked beside his bed. Alex refused to let go of Vincent's hand, his eyes wide and dry, too tired for tears. When visiting hours ended, a nurse gently suggested that Alex needed rest. Vincent looked at the sterile waiting area and knew this wasn't a place for a teenager to sleep. Without a word, he gathered Alex into his arms. Come on, he whispered. You're coming with me tonight. He brought Alex to his penthouse, a sleek, minimalist space with glass walls overlooking Manhattan. For the first time, it felt too large, too empty. Alex sat at his glass desk, legs dangling off the chair, sketching with pencils Vincent found in a drawer. Vincent reviewed a report half-heartedly, his eyes drifting to Alex every few seconds. At one point, Alex's hand slowed, his eyelids drooping, and his head tipped to the side, gently landing against Vincent's arm. He was asleep. Something inside Vincent unraveled. He didn't move. He sat perfectly still, watching the soft rise and fall of Alex's breath, feeling the faint warmth of his presence seep into the cold parts of himself he thought would never thaw. He looked at Alex, sleeping peacefully against him, wrapped in his scarf, safe for the first time in who knew how long. And in that quiet, dim office high above the city, he made a silent vow. He would not let anyone take him. The days that followed unfolded with a strange, quiet rhythm. Morning after morning, Vincent found himself walking into the hospital lobby instead of a tense meeting, carrying warm coffee and pastries because Alex liked the almond ones. Nurses began to greet them by name. Alex walked beside him each day, his small hand often brushing against Vincent's, never gripping fully unless he was frightened. Each time his fingers pressed into Vincent's palm, something inside him softened a little more. David's room had become an anchor. Some afternoons, when David was awake, Alex would sit on the edge of the bed reading to him, his voice wobbling but determined. On quieter evenings, Vincent simply sat beside David while Alex napped in the recliner. For the first time since losing his partner, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt necessary. At home, his penthouse began to lose its cold perfection. It started with one of Alex's crumpled sketches left on his marble counter. Then came a crooked paper snowflake taped to his pristine glass wall. He hadn't taken it down. Before long, his immaculate home was peppered with small traces of him. A gray glove here, a worn book there, and each time he spotted one, something warm flickered in his chest. For the first time in years, Vincent slept through the night. He had come home exhausted, Alex's weight still lingering on his shoulder from where he'd fallen asleep in the car. He drifted into a deep, uninterrupted sleep. No naitmors, no yo ultingewak. Later that week, when Vincent walked into the hospital room, he found David propped up, a faint glow on his face. He was trying to sketch, his hands moving slowly, awkwardly. A lumpy drawing of a bird lay across his lap. Alex looked up proudly. He's been doing it all morning. He wanted to surprise you. Vincent approached the bed gently. David paused, catching his breath, then held up the drawing. It's not very good, he rasped, his smile crooked but warm. But I wanted you to have something made with my hands. Not just my gratitude. Vincent swallowed hard. It's perfect, he said, and he meant it. Alex crawled into the bed beside his dad. Dad says you brought warmth back into my life, he said softly. But I think you brought it back into yours, too. The days continued like this, small moments stitching themselves into something bigger. Alex doodled on sticky notes and left them on his laptop. Simple drawings of cityscapes or him in his black suit, holding a star. One evening, as the hospital sky turned amber, David fell asleep. Alex was curled on the recliner, bundled in Vincent's scarf. The comm shattered. A warning alarm chimed. The heart monitor line fluttered with irregular spikes. Vincent's blood ran cold. Nurses rushed in. Alex jerked awake. Dad! His voice shook. Vincent placed a steady hand on his shoulder. It's okay. They're helping him, but his voice was tight. Alex's fingers curled into his coat, gripping his entire hand with all his strength. As the nurses worked, David's body trembled, his breath shallow, fading. Alex pressed closer into Vincent, shaking. Vincent wrapped his arm around him, pulling him into his chest, grounding him. The machine beeped again, slow, steady, ominous. The hallway lights outside David's room flickered dimly. Machines beeped in uneven, stumbling rhythms. Alex clung to Vincent, his small hands gripping fistfuls of his coat. Dad? Alex whispered, his voice cracking as he stared at the rise and fall of David's fragile chest. Dad, please wake up. Please. Vincent guided him toward the bedside, kneeling with him. Impossibly, David stirred. His eyelids fluttered. Dad? Alex whispered again. David's eyes opened halfway, searching the room until they found Alex and then shifted to Vincent. Something softened in his gaze, a look of relief mixed with goodbye. His lips parted. You, he whispered, his voice thin as air. You stayed. Vincent swallowed, nodding. Always, he said, his voice rough. With an effort that looked almost painful, David lifted his hand. Alex gently guided his father's hand into Vincent's. David closed his fingers around both of theirs. "My last Christmas gift," he whispered, each word a battle, "is knowing he won't be alone." Alex broke into tiny, silent gasps, his body folding in on itself. He shook violently, tears spilling unchecked down his cheeks as he pressed his forehead to his father's hand. "Dad, don't go," he whispered. "Please don't go." Vincent pulled him in closer, wrapping both arms around him. David's breathing slowed, faint, fading. The room fell into a deep stillness. Alex lifted his head. "Dad," he whispered. "I love you." David's eyes glistened. "I love you too, my son." Then his gaze drifted one last time to Vincent, soft, grateful, trusting. "Take care of each other." His chest rose once, fell, and didn't rise again. The monitor released a long, flat tone. Alex's body crumpled. He shook with small, uncontrollable tremors. Vincent wrapped himself around him, holding him tightly, whispering, "I've got you. I've got you." Then the air shifted. A slow, mocking clap echoed from the doorway. Vincent's head snapped up. A man leaned against the door frame, tall, smug, wearing a cheap leather jacket and an ugly confidence. His eyes were sharp and cruel. Alex stiffened instantly, his fingers digging painfully into Vincent's sleeve. "No," he whimpered. "Well," the man said, stepping fully into the room with an oily swagger. "Isn't this touching?" Vincent shifted instinctively, pulling Alex behind him. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice low and cold. The man tilted his head. "Name's Julian. Alex's boyfriend." His grin widened with malice. Alex let out a small broken cry. "Ex-boyfriend," Vincent corrected, his voice like steel. Julian's eyes narrowed. "I heard his old man finally kicked the bucket, which means it's time for me to step in and take back what's mine." He gave Alex a look that made Vincent's stomach twist. "Daddy's here." Vincent's hands curled into fists. This man, this predator. Not again. Not ever. Julian stepped forward. "Pack his things. I'm taking him tonight." Vincent moved, placing himself fully between Julian and Alex. "You're not taking him anywhere." Julian's smirk faded. "You think you can stop me?" he hissed. "He's 17. He's mine until he's not." He jabbed a finger toward Alex. "You want to play hero?" He turned on his heel, boots echoing in the hallway, leaving behind a silence that buzzed with unfinished threats. Alex clung to Vincent's coat, eyes wide with fear. "He can't. He won't really take me, right?" Vincent knelt beside him, his voice low and steady. "Not while I'm breathing." A week had passed since David's funeral. The days had blurred together, filled with quiet mourning and careful hope. But this day was different. Julian had made his intentions clear, sending threatening texts and lurking near the penthouse. Vincent knew a restraining order was just a piece of paper to a man like that. There would be no courtroom. There would only be a final resolution. Vincent sat in his study, the city lights twinkling below. Alex was asleep in his new room, a space painted in a soft gray blue, his drawings framed on the walls. He'd barely spoken since the funeral, the fear of Julian a constant shadow. Vincent made a call. "Luca, I need you to find Julian Carter. I want to know everywhere he goes, everyone he talks to, and I want it done quietly." The next evening, Vincent found Alex staring out the window of his room, clutching his sketchbook to his chest like armor. "He's out there, isn't he?" Alex whispered, not turning around. Vincent came to stand beside him. "He can't get to you here." "For how long?" Alex's voice was small, broken. "He won't stop. He never stops." He finally turned, his eyes swollen. "When I was 15, he told me I was nothing without him, that no one else would ever want me. I believed him for a long time." Vincent felt a cold fury settle in his bones. He gently took the sketchbook from Alex's hands and set it aside. He cupped his face, his thumbs brushing away the stray tears. "Look at me, Alex," he said, his voice firm but gentle. You are not nothing. You are everything. And he will never touch you again. I promise you that night Luca called. Julian was at a derelict warehouse by the docks, meeting with some low-level criminals, trying to sell information he'd gathered about Vincent's operations. It was a foolish, desperate move. Stay with Alex, Vincent told his guards. Lock everything down. No one gets in or out. The warehouse smelled of rust and decay. Julian was laughing, boasting to two other men when Vincent and Luca stepped out of the shadows. The laughter died in his throat. His face went pale. Romano, he stammered. Vincent walked forward slowly, his black suit immaculate against the grime. You made a mistake, Julian, he said, his voice dangerously calm. You threatened something that belongs to me. He's just a kid, Julian blustered, trying to regain his footing. He's not your property. Neither is he yours, Vincent said, stopping just a foot from him. You put your hands on him. You filled his head with poison. And then you tried to use him to get to me. He gestured to Luca, who stepped forward. You will disappear. You will leave the city tonight and never return. You will forget Alex Bennett's name. If I ever hear that you have contacted him, or even thought about him, there is no place on this earth you can hide from me. Fear, raw and absolute, finally broke through Julian's bravado. He scrambled backwards, nodding frantically. I'm gone. I swear. He and his associates fled into the night. Vincent stood in the silence, the cold air biting at his skin. It was over. He returned home just before dawn. He found Alex asleep on the couch in the living room, a blanket pulled up to his chin, the television muttering softly. He had waited up for him. Vincent knelt beside him, gently brushing the hair from his forehead. Alex's eyes fluttered open, hazy with sleep. You're back, he whispered. I'm back, Vincent confirmed. Alex sat up, searching his face. Is he gone? He's gone, Vincent said. He'll never bother you again. A wave of relief so profound it was almost painful washed over Alex's features. Tears welled in his eyes, not of fear this time, but of release. He launched himself into Vincent's arms, burying his face in his chest, his body shaking with relieved sobs. Vincent held him tightly, one hand cupping the back of his head. You're safe, he whispered. I've got you. Christmas Eve settled gently over the city. Snow drifted past the window of Vincent's home, which no longer felt like a museum of expensive silence. Tonight, it was alive, filled with the warmth of cinnamon cocoa simmering in the kitchen and the sound of Alex humming a Christmas tune. In the living room, the Christmas tree gleamed with lights they had hung together. Alex reached up to place his father's last drawing, the lopsided bird, near the top. He liked to watch them from the window, Alex whispered. He said they knew how to be free. Vincent steadied him, his hand on his back, holding a glowing star. Then he picked the right place, he murmured, handing it to Alex. Alex pressed the star into his palm. You put it, he said. Dad would want that. Vincent's throat tightened. He secured the star next to the drawing, light and memory woven into the heart of their new home. Later, wrapped in a soft blanket, Alex curled beside Vincent on the couch, resting his head against his arm. The fireplace crackled, filling the room with warmth. Alex traced a small shape on his sleeve with his fingertip. Vincent, he whispered. Yeah, kid. He hesitated, breathing deeply. Are we a family now? The question hung in the air, fragile and beautiful. Vincent turned toward him, brushing a strand of hair from his face. We've been a family from the moment you grabbed my coat, he said softly. The universe just needed time to catch up. His lips curved into a small smile. Just before midnight, they bundled up and walked hand in hand to the small park where David's ashes had been scattered beneath a large oak tree. The night was still. Alex held a small, handmade ornament. When they reached the tree, he knelt in the snow. Dat, whispered. We brought you something. He unwrapped the ornament. A tiny wooden circle painted with a star and the words, Dad's last Christmas wish. He hung it on a low branch. Alex leaned into Vincent's coat. Do you think he sees us? He asked quietly. Vincent bent down, lifting him into his arms. Every day, he said, his voice thick with emotion. And he'd be so proud of you, Alex. On the walk home, snowflakes caught in Alex's hair. When they stepped back inside, warmth wrapped around them. Alex ran to his room and returned with a piece of paper, freshly drawn. I made this for you, he said shyly. Vincent took it carefully. It showed the two of them standing under falling snow, Alex in his gray coat, him in his long black one, holding hands beneath a starry sky. Their silhouettes overlapped slightly. At the bottom, in neat handwriting, it said, Where Christmas found us. Vincent felt something shift deep inside. He pulled Alex into his arms, pressing a gentle kiss to the top of his head. This is the best gift I've ever received, he said. Ever near dawn, as the horizon glowed pale gold, they stood by the window, watching the last snowflakes drift down. Their reflections overlapped on the glass, two silhouettes blending into one warm, glowing shape. Vincent closed his eyes. To the man he once feared he would betray by moving forward, he whispered softly, You were right. Love never disappears. It just finds someone new to save. When he opened his eyes, Alex turned around, smiling sleepily. Can we do this every Christmas? He asked. Vincent scooped him into his arms. Every one, he promised. Outside, the world was covered in fresh snow. Inside, a new family had already begun to bloom, born not from blood, but from a love strong enough to survive the coldest winter.